2020, did I get that right?
Approximately, yes.
Okay. And when did you pick up Calhoun's reports and start looking at this case?
2021.
Okay. So in 2021, we are essentially 23 years after for example, the first thing you testified about, I think, was the July TPO, right?
Correct.
Okay. Obviously, you weren't there then. You didn't have, contemporaneous evidence of what happened on that day, right? You didn't interview any of the witnesses.
That's correct.
That led to the TPO, correct?
Correct.
And when I say TPO, I'm talking about a temporary protective order.
That's correct.
And you introduced some exhibits this morning. Yes, this morning, dealing with that TPO, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So what you learned from reading Calhoun's reports and what led you to think the TPO was important was that there was an argument, correct? There was a dispute?
Yes, there was a physical dispute that resulted in Melissa Wolfenbarger's injuries.
It resulted in?
Her injuries?
Okay. Did you interview someone named Perrone who was involved in that?
No, I never got a chance to interview Ms. Perrone.
Okay. And did you talk to the law enforcement officer who went to the scene, whose name is Sutton, I believe?
No, every officer during that time, by the time I received the case, pretty much retired. But I was referring to his actual police reports that were documented.
Well, he came here. It wasn't that hard to find him. He came here and testified. Did you ever talk to him?
No, sir, I never was able to talk to officers.
Were you aware that he said he never saw any bruises on her back?
The only thing I had to refer to is it wasn't the actual police report that he documented when the incident occurred.
Right. Well, he didn't document what he saw. And when he testified, he said, I didn't lift up her shirt or look at anything on her back. I didn't see any. In fact, he said she had some bruises on her legs.
To counsel testifying.
I'm cross-examining him.
Yeah, I'm gonna overrule the objection.
I have no direct knowledge to his testimony when he testified in here.
So if in fact his testimony is different than what you said this morning, obviously you don't question his credibility when he came here and testified under oath.
I think Officer Sutton will have to be the one to speak on that. As far as his credibility, I can refer to documents that were documented in an official police report.
Okay. And do you know from the official police report whether the officer or anybody interviewed Mr. Wolfenbarger that night?
Not sure. I don't have any reports that stating that either.
Or Mr. Perrone that night?
There are no police reports that's documenting that.
Okay. So you have Sutton's police report, which is inconsistent with the testimony he gave to the jury, and that's it as far as what led to the temporary protective order.
Again, I can't testify to Officer Sutton's testimony that he testified in here. Only thing I have to go by is what he documented in his police report.
Okay. All right. Now, as a result of whatever happened that day in July something like 22nd, right, 1998, Ms. Wolfenbarger was encouraged to take out a TPO, correct?
Yes, after she was assaulted and dragged by Christopher Wolfenbarger and received the injuries. Usually when there's a domestic dispute, we always refer to the victim in that domestic. That's an option that they can go and seek as a temporary protective order for further protection.
Can I ask you to do me a favor?
Yes,
when
sir.
I ask you a question, you can answer yes or no. Okay?
Cool. Okay.
All right?
Yes, sir.
If you think it's a deceptive answer and you need to explain it, that's fine. But, you don't know what happened that night. You just know what's in the police report, right?
Correct. The only thing I know is what's documented in the police report.
Okay. By the way, did you even try to find Officer Sutton?
I have the official police reports that I can refer to, and that's usually what happens. A lot of cold cases, we don't reach out to those the officers that officially responded to the first scene. We go by the police reports.
Okay. So at any rate, it was customary to refer Ms. Wolfenbarger to get a TPO, correct? A temporary protective order.
Yes, sir. Anytime there's a domestic dispute and the victim of that domestic dispute.
Sir, I just asked you a yes/no question. She was referred to get a TPO, correct?
Yes, she was correct.
You want to make a speech every time I ask you a question, or just say yes or no if you can, all right?
Are you asking me, sir?
Not really. So she takes out a TPO on what day?
We have to refer to the actual document again if we want to get the exact date. Thank you.
Some of those are not in evidence in full, you may remember, but you have the date that the TPO is taken out.
As soon as I find a TPO, I can give you the exact date. It looks like it was July 2nd, 1998. July 22nd, I'm sorry.
22nd, okay.
Correct.
And then what a TPO does is, that's just ask the court to set down a hearing, correct?
But TPO is, again, another form of documentation along with the police report where they documented through the court that this person that's filing the TPO needs protection from the person that they're trying to get protection from.
Right, but it has to be followed very quickly by a court hearing, correct?
Well, that depends on the court.
Okay.
But once it's filed and it's enacted, the person, we have a court hearing, they're served, and at that point, they're served with that temporary protective order. They have strict orders not to violate that temporary protective order.
How long did the TPO in this case exist before they went to court for the first time?
Do you have the documents? Okay. Was dismissed on July 29th, 1998,
So about 1 week later, correct?
according to the documents, that's correct.
You have the rule nisi there?
I do.
Okay, rule nisi is just a Latin term that lawyers use to say, come to court, right? Show cause, come to court,
Okay.
right?
I don't speak Latin, but I'm assuming if you're saying that, that's correct.
I appreciate your confidence in me. So they go to court and the TPO is dismissed, correct?
That is correct.
And that doesn't happen without a judge sitting on the bench, correct?
Correct. And usually when it's dismissed, one of the parties are not showing up. Just like when in the court case, when the party doesn't show up, it's dismissed.
But every party's here for this. For the TPO dismissal, everybody's in court.
Okay.
In fact, were you aware from talking to people that the judge encouraged them to talk to each other? They talked to each other, and then the judge dismissed the TPO.
I'm not surprised in court hearings.
I didn't ask if you were surprised. I asked, are you aware that that's what happened?
I'm not aware.
Well, did you ever interview anybody about what happened in that court proceeding?
It's pertaining to the TPO?
Yes.
No, sir. The TPO is not related. It's not part of my murder investigation. It documents of first form of interaction that documents the domestic violence between Christopher Wolfenbarger and Melissa. As far as a homicide investigation, it's not relevant going to the homicide. So there was no reason for you to follow up for it pertaining to this domestic.
Well, are you saying that all the domestic things involved in July 1998 has nothing to do with the investigation of the homicide?
The July 1998 incident is very critical, and it documents and it landmarks a tumultuous relationship between Christopher and Melissa. So it is very important.
You just said it's not relevant. I'm confused between your last two answers. You said you didn't follow up anything about the background of it, anything about what happened in court, anything about any of that, because it's not relevant to the homicide, but then you say it's the landmark most important thing.
That is correct. So when you document an incident domestic, it's documented. It's a homicide investigation. We continue with our homicide investigation. We have reliability when we refer to the police reports, which is official documents. That's documented in time. There's no need me to follow up on the domestic side because we have it clearly documented in the police reports. My investigation continues from the homicide on.
You don't disagree, though, that even the documents show that the judge approved the dismissal of the TPO. The judge signs it.
And these are legal documents, and I definitely approve of it.
Okay. You then talked about having interviewed Mr. Wolfenbarger in, the first time was in 2021. So now we're 23 years later after the TPO. 23 years after the TPO, you interview him on May 5th. And I think we listened to that tape, correct?
Correct.
2021.
Correct.
Okay, so we don't have anything else at this point between then and 2021, right?
As far as that pertains to what?
Your direct contact.
No, that's the first time I came in contact with Chris.
Okay.
That's correct.
And you meet with him and you talked to him and you said it was a voluntary meeting, correct?
Yes, it was in his home, in his living room.
Right. So there was no coercion, no handcuffs. You didn't threaten him, but he voluntarily welcomed you in, gave you a seat at the table, sat down and talked with you.
Correct.
Totally
custodial.
Totally voluntary.
Correct.
Totally cooperative.
Correct.
And when you were done with that interview, you packed up your tape recorder and you left, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then you're continuing to review Calhoun's reports during this time, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In that tape that we heard this morning, Mr. Wolfenbarger told you about a rocky relationship that he had. In part, he attributes it, or perhaps in large part, he attributes it to Melissa Wolfenbarger's parents, correct?
I don't know if he attributed the rockiness to the parents, but he did admit to having a rocky relationship. I don't know how he would attribute it to his parents.
Not his parents.
Her parents. Correct.
Her parents.
Correct.
You don't think he was attributing it to that?
No, I'm pretty sure he was not attributing to that. I did not interpret that as his parents being, or her parents being a reason why they have a rocky relationship. That's solely between those two.
But clearly he didn't get along with her parents.
He stated that. That's correct.
Okay. Well, I mean, that wouldn't come as a surprise, would it?
I'm not surprised if anybody's in a tumultuous, rocky, violent relationship. I haven't seen a couple that's had a good relationship with any parents involved in that.
Well, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Here I'm talking about the fact that his in-laws had murdered 5 people. Do you have in-laws? Are you married? Can you imagine your wife's parents killed 5 people, threw them in a river?
Hang on.
To the form of the questions, proper judge, I would ask that the jury be instructed to disregard the form of the question.
I'll withdraw it. But can I withdraw it?
You can withdraw it.
Does it shock you that someone would say they have a rocky relationship with their in-laws, given what you know are the facts of this case?
I've been doing this job almost a quarter century. I talk to murderers and deal with murders on a daily basis. People from murderers' families. That has nothing to do with what they have to do in their relationship. People can't help who they're related to. Their relationship was their relationship, had nothing to do with their parents.
Okay. So you don't find it surprising that he had a difficult time relating to the family, to the parents who had committed 5 murders, thrown them in a river. There was a baby who died in their home and convicted of concealing the death. None of those things.
None of that came out in the form of evidence during the course of this trial. The counsels have interjected things that are not in evidence and asking questions based on things that aren't in fact. I'd ask that the court instruct counsel not to do that.
Mr. Samuel?
I don't think that's accurate.
I think I've heard the 2 things that you specifically referred to. I've heard testimony about them in this trial, so I'm going to overrule your objection. Go ahead.
But your position is, it's like Tolstoy said, every unhappy family is unhappy in their own way, right?
So
It's
because
just another unhappy family.
because Melissa was from this type of family, that gave her permission to be victim of a domestic violence? I don't think so.
That rhetorical question doesn't answer my question.
Again, because she was a victim of her family and their wrongdoings does not give Christopher or anybody a right to place her in an abusive relationship. So
I'm going to ask you to stop the answer because my question had nothing to do with whether Mr. Wolfenbarger had the right to do anything. And he denies doing anything. So your answer to that, you can give a closing argument if you want, tell the lawyers to go home. Otherwise, I'd ask you to answer my questions.
Can you repeat your question, sir?
Yes. His in-laws.
Oh my goodness. Don't stop it. Oh my goodness. Do y'all hear this? I am over here dying. He is tearing him apart. If they don't hurry up and get him off the stand, nobody objected. Nobody saying this is argumentative. What is going on? Let him go. I think they might put on a boxing gloves. And they've been doing this to all their witnesses, almost all of them, right? Pulling out all this information. This is, besides the daughter, that's the only person that got up there was actually telling just what she knew. All these other people picking up all these different pieces everywhere. Oh, they are tearing them apart. Okay. I am over here dying laughing. Like, go hard in the paint. I don't know what this attorney's name is, but go hard. Even if you lose, I know he went hard in the paint.
Were serial killers, right? And were throwing family members they were killing, throwing their bodies in the river. Melissa's sister had a baby who died at birth and was thrown in the hamper. And your only answer to me is that doesn't give Chris a right to do something?
Absolutely. Christopher does not have a right to abuse Melissa based off of her family history. That is correct.
What makes you think that he was using that as a right?
I'm just basing this off your argument that you're making right now, sir.
I have never said he had a right to do anything. And as I just said, he denies doing anything.
Are you asking me a question?
When was the next time you interviewed Chris?
I have it documented in my reports.
When's the next time you interviewed him?
Can we refer to my reports, the exact date?
You have your reports up there?
No, sir. These are the exhibits that you left.
Okay. Did you interview him again in February of 2023?
Is that documented in my report?
It's documented in my notes.
As soon as I can confirm it's documented in my report, then.
Yes.
Do you know exactly what page this documentation is going to be in my reports?
Detective Shepard, you testified this morning about the different interviews you have. You didn't require a counsel to give you page numbers.
Well, if we were going to refer to dates, then I would like that the notes that you took from my case file, if you can give me the exact date so I can refer to it.
I just told you the date was February 2023.
Okay, on my page in my notes, can you give me the page?
Forget it.
Okay.
We'll move to a different topic. Are you familiar with the circumstances of Melissa and Chris Wolfenbarger moving to Atlanta?
No, I'm not familiar with that.
Do you know when they moved to Atlanta?
No, sir, I do not.
Do you know where they lived when they moved to Atlanta?
They stayed off of Brookline.
Okay. Do you know who owned that property?
I believe Christopher's mother owned that property.
Okay. And had they been to Atlanta before or in the Atlanta area before that?
I'm not sure.
And did Melissa end up having a series of jobs working at Waffle House when she was in Atlanta?
Correct.
And had friends, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you know that from talking to some of the friends, correct? And talking to people at the Waffle House, correct?
Correct. And also Christopher's statement was that she worked at the Waffle House and had friends at the Waffle House.
Right. And she wasn't isolated in Atlanta, was she?
I'm not going to say isolated, but there was some, according to the reports that documented that they didn't always see her, but they always saw Christopher. She was always.
Who's the they in that sentence?
Some of the witnesses that that was interviewed and that's documented in the case file.
Didn't Miss Cooley talk about how they would play all the time? She'd see Chris all the time?
I'm sorry, you say Miss Cooley?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with a Miss Cooley.
Okay. Did you read Calhoun's reports?
I did.
Did you read them before you came into court here?
Yes, sir, but I'm not familiar with a Miss Cooley.
Okay. How many times did you talk to the folks at the glass company?
In person, I was able to interview them one time.
Okay. And did you determine from talking to Mr. Brock that ultimately Chris was let go because of a car accident involving one of the company's trucks?
Yes, also the saw that
Is that
he
yes
borrowed.
or is that a yes or a no?
Yes, he also borrowed a saw that he never returned.
He borrowed a saw that he never returned.
Those were their words, correct, that he
Okay.
never returned the saw.
Okay. Those weren't your words this morning. Are you aware of that?
Correct. The Brooks, Mr. Brooks, they said that
Brock.
Mr. Brock, thank you, that he borrowed the saw along with some type of violation that he did with the vehicle. They couldn't prove that he stole the saw, but they let him go as a result.
You talked about talking with Thomas Dixon, right?
That is correct.
He'd spent, what, 10 years in prison between the time of 99, 2000 and the time you met with him, right?
Yes, he was in and out of prison. At that time, he was currently getting his life together. So that is correct.
And then you talked about the time of Chris's arrest, right?
Correct. Yes.
And you said that he was not cooperative at the time of his arrest, correct?
That is correct. He hid in the cupboard that he built inside of his home, and it took, I believe, fugitive about 30 minutes or plus to find him.
Yeah. He had met with Calhoun how many times? Voluntarily meeting with Calhoun.
It's more than one time.
How many times did he meet with Detective Stott, who was here this morning? Voluntarily, either went to his police department or met with him and was fully cooperative with him.
I have no direct knowledge of Detective Stott or his interactions with Christopher.
Okay. You haven't read his reports?
I have no direct knowledge of Detective Stott or his interactions with Christopher.
Okay, but my question was, have you read his reports?
No, and I don't have any firsthand knowledge of his interactions with Christopher.
Okay. What about Calhoun's reports?
Correct. Yes, I have.
And Mr. Wolfenbarger's cooperation with him?
Yes, yes. Spoke with him multiple times. There is one time that he met with Detective Calhoun, and Detective Calhoun advised that he stole a search warrant that he had. He had to go back and get it from Christopher. That was one interaction that he had with Christopher. So I wouldn't categorize or describe his whole interactions as cooperative.
At the time of his arrest, how many law enforcement officers went to his house?
You have to refer to the fugitive report, and they should have a list of every law enforcement officer that was assisted in that arrest.
Do you know how many people went to the house?
Offhand, I do not know, but usually when you're trying to apprehend a fugitive for murder, there's going to be a great number of law enforcement.
So if Detective O'Hare was in here yesterday or a few days ago and said there were 30 officers who went to the house, you wouldn't question that, would you?
That sounds about right. And it's always a tactical safe way or a way to apprehend
And
a
he's-
fugitive that's wanted for
He
murder.
said most of them were armed with assault weapons
That sounds about right, correct?
and helmets and gear and flak jackets and all of that, correct?
That is correct.
And used a battering ram to get into the. Well, I'm going to ask you, did they use a battering ram to
I
get
have no
in?
direct knowledge on how they made entry into the house. From what I do believe, I do understand that his wife, or at the time what was described as wife, answered the door and she lied and said he wasn't there. And then they was able to make entry and find him. I don't have any knowledge of a ram being used.
Okay. But that is inconsistent with all the cooperation he showed you and Calhoun and Stott over the course of 20 years of
Yeah.
answering all your questions, meeting with you, coming to your office, correct?
Incorrect. Whenever you're trying to apprehend a fugitive wanted for a violent crime, which is murder, then you're going to go in the most tactical force used, and that's to ensure the safety on both sides of law enforcement and the civilians that we're trying to obtain.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning to say that the officers were doing anything wrong. I was going to say, if he was uncooperative at that time, it was inconsistent with all the cooperation he had shown you and Stott and Calhoun and Kelly, anybody else who he'd been interviewed by with over the years.
So based on the way you framed your question, inconsistent mean that he hid in the cupboard,
Yeah.
and he did not hide when we went to go talk to him, but he did hide when when they arrived for his arrest. That's correct. He did hide when that arrest happened, and he did speak with us in person.
And he had voluntarily given pubic hair to Calhoun.
Correct.
He had voluntarily given other hair samples at other times he was requested, correct?
Correct. And also,
My question was just a yes or no. He also gave DNA evidence when requested, correct? Buccal swabs.
that is correct.
He also, there was the luminol was used in his house, correct?
Correct. 3 years after the incident, though, and the house had been remodeled. So
So, and all those were done in a cooperative manner. Some you had to get a search warrant for, but others he did in a cooperative manner.
So the last incident that you're referring to is the luminol, a search warrant had to be obtained. So I don't know, I don't have any direct knowledge of interaction at that time that Christopher had with the detectives performing that search warrant.
Well, he wasn't even living there when the luminol was given out.
Okay, so that answers the question. He did.
And also during the course of the questioning by Mr. Fawcett here, you repeatedly talked about things that you found important, correct?
Correct.
Did you find it important that the pubic hair that he gave to the officers and that was tested was not shown to be consistent with what was found in the bags?
All DNA is important, but also I had to keep in mind that this case was older. Also, I got to keep in mind that the condition of the body parts that were found, and also over time, those things fade. So we're going to do it just to check the boxes and make sure we're going to cross our T's and dot our I's. But also in the back of my mind, I do know that the DNA was going to be compromised because it was compromised.
But the pubic hair was analyzed and was found to be not consistent with what was found in the bag.
So the way I remember the report saying it was dissimilar, and also pubic hairs and hairs degrade over time, and that's the way the report read. By the time this particular item was tested, years had passed it. So over time, DNA does degrade, and pubic hairs and DNA items such as that will degrade.
And you know from the other officer who was with you earlier today and sitting outside that he had done DNA from what was found on the bag, and all of that came back negative.
Are you referring to Detective Stein?
Yeah.
Yeah, so Detective Stein and myself, we did work on this case earlier, and he was definitely a big part of collecting that DNA for further testing.
And it came back as not being consistent with Mr. Wolfenbarger's DNA.
That's correct.
Okay. And you know about the paint chips that were found inside the bag that didn't match anything in the house.
That's correct. But also at the time when they did serve the search warrant at the house had been remodeled. That particular area had been remodeled. So it was not gonna be uncommon that those paint chips were gonna be dissimilar to one another.
Right. So do I gather that all the evidence that exonerates him, that shows that he's not the person who perpetrated the crime, you consider to be insignificant?
That's incorrect. If you're referring to just physical evidence in that manner, no, but you still have other evidence that goes in line and testimonies that go in line with this case.
I'm just asking about the physical evidence. You downplay the significance of all of that, don't you?
Can never downplay physical evidence. Physical evidence is important, but what you have to keep in mind that over time, physical evidence degrades. And this case is a prime example of that.
You know that cadaver dogs were sent out to the house, correct?
Okay, I heard of an incident. I don't have any direct knowledge of cadaver dogs or APD using any cadaver dogs.
Okay. There's no evidence of, first of all, there was no saw found in the house or in the house where he was arrested years later, correct?
No, the only reference to a saw is when Christopher admitted that he was in possession of, or he was accused of being in possession of while he was let go from his job.
Right. There's no evidence where the dismemberment occurred.
Absolutely. There's no evidence where it could have occurred anywhere.
When you were questioning Chris in the 2021 that we listened to, you asked him to say who he thought had killed his wife, correct?
I believe we asked him what did he think happened.
Right. And he responded, of course, he initially said the family, correct? Her family, her parents.
Correct. He wanted.
And then he said, but he then said, but listen, I'm just speculating, correct?
Well, we have to go in order. If to answer the question, he pointed all the blame to the father and the family. And what he's referring to when he's saying speculating, he's speculating on different parts of the interview and different parts of the statement that he made.
Yeah. One second, Your Honor.
Sure.